There is a world where nothing significant has ever happened at a family gathering, and this is the report of the afternoon that kept the record intact. And the families of that world convene twice a year, by blood, in yards. And nobody remembers ratifying the custom, and everybody enforces it. The chairs are folding chairs. The tables do not match, and one of them wobbles, and the wobble is discussed. Every yard in that world is this yard. The report could have been filed from any of them. And there's a law at these gatherings, nowhere written, never once broken. Nothing significant may be said. The origin of the law is past finding. It is older than the family, older than the yard, and nobody in that world could recite it if asked, because reciting it would come dangerously close to breaking it. But what they can do is keep it, and they keep it the way a floor keeps a house up, without being asked and without being noticed. The approved subjects are known to all. The restaurant in the town they visited, and what each person ordered at it, entered course by course with sides. The hotel, and the breakfast of the hotel, and the machine, the breakfast that makes the waffles, which you flip yourself, and which beats. The cabinets, painted at last, and the color, which is not white, which is a name the store gives to white. The countertop, chipped by an accident the size of a thumbnail, and the man who came to look at it, who said it happens. The children, and the teacher of the children, who is young but good. The neighbors, and what the neighbors are putting in, and what it will do to the drainage. The sprinkler system, zone by zone. Understand the mechanism before you laugh at it. And nothing under discussion at one of those tables has ever been in dispute. And no mind has ever been changed in that yard, because no mind has ever been asked to move. And that is not a failure of the format. And that is the format. A subject qualifies for the yard precisely by having no edge on it anywhere. No handle a grief could grab. No end that could go in deep. The hook is inspected at the gate the way luggage is, and everything sharp goes in a tray by the door, and what walks into the yard is a family disarmed down to the waffle machine. And they say it all at once. This is the part the report has to slow down for, because it is the engine of the whole world. 4 people talking is the resting state. 6 is common after the food. And nobody is listening in any direction. And this is known, and it changes nothing, because the talk of that world is not transmission. Each speaker is hunting for a slot, a gap in the noise the width of one clause, and the slots are scarce, and so the clauses shorten, and the shortening quickens the whole surface, and the quickening shrinks the slots again. It compounds. By the second hour, the yard has a sound with no words left in it at any distance, a single continuous surface, like rain arriving on a roof, one conversation at a time, and every man and woman under it grows slightly louder in self-defense at the exact same rate, which is the arms race nobody declared and nobody can end, and the pitch of the whole family climbs together, gently, by degrees, the way a kettle does. Up close, in fragments, it goes like this, and had gone like this for years. It happens. That is what he said. It happens. She's young, but she's good. You flip it yourself, and it beeps. The second zone runs early, before the sun can take it. And nothing of any significance is being said, at speed, by everyone at the same time. Through all of it, at knee height, moves the dog. And there is always a dog. This family's was big and yellow and of no breed anyone would put money on. And he worked the yard the way the yard could not work itself. One cluster at a time, in full attention, leaning his whole weight against one leg at a time. The law of the gathering did not apply to him and could not, because the law governs what may be said, and he said nothing, and had no plans to. He was the only attendee whose entire conversation was showing up, and, not coincidentally, the only one whose company sent nobody home tired. His name was Nate. The report asks you to hold the name. It is the only name this report will use, and it is not idle. A name, in that family, is the nearest thing the yard has to wit. Names there are jokes, small ones, licensed ones, the one shape of cleverness the law admits, because a pun has no edge on it anywhere. There is a cat in that family named for a comedian by way of one traded letter, and a jar of Levdo on a counter 2 houses over, named for a night from the old move, is by way of what it is made of. And the jar gets introduced to guests, and the introduction is the entire joke. Every time, and everyone smiles, the smile you smile, a thing you have smiled at before. The report does not enter those names. They are doing no work. But hold the custom, because it is the whole reason nobody ever asked. A family that names everything as a joke files every name under joke and moves on. And it was the only name in that yard with no joke anyone could find in it. The one name that should have raised a question, and it never did. The father had filed a significant thing in the one drawer nobody in that family opens. The drawer marked for jokes. And now the wall. Every family in that world has one number posted to it. And nobody assigns the post. It assigns itself early, in childhood, at the first gathering where the noise came down on a particular head like water on a match. This family's was the son. He stood where the wall meets the fence, holding a cup he did not drink from, and the cup was the uniform, because a man holding a cup is participating, and a man holding nothing is a question the yard will eventually ask. And he was carrying something into that yard, the way he carried it everywhere that year. A plan. It doesn't matter here what the plan was, and the report will honor him by keeping it, but enter its class. It was a way of getting clean water to move uphill without power, and it wasn't finished, and it lived in his head, and it needed exactly what the yard did not sell, which is 1 hour of silence to stand still in. He ran the experiment every year, and every year it returned the same result. Hour 1, the plan is whole. He can walk around it in his head. He can see the part that does not work yet. Hour 2, the surface of the yard has gotten into his skull the way water gets into a boot, and the plan is still there, but he can no longer approach it. By hour 3, he cannot hold the plan's own name, and he is standing in the wreck of his own head with a cold beer, ears full of 6 accounts of 4 vacations, too tired to think and too empty to leave. Hour 3 has one mercy in it, and the mercy weighs 90 pounds and arrives without being called. The dog, done with his rounds, comes to the wall and turns and sits on the son's feet and leans. And no slot, and no subject. The only visitor the wall ever gets, and the only one it needs. The yard did ask the son its question, once per gathering, on schedule. So what are you up to these days? And 1 year he answered them honestly, as an experiment, into his slot. He said he thought he found a way to get water uphill for nothing, or almost nothing, to the places that need it. 4 seconds. That's a generous slot. And the yard said, that is great, and closed over the spot where the sentence had gone in, the way a pond closes over a stone, and was already back at the sprinklers. He never ran the experiment again. The report enters no complaint about this, and neither did he. You cannot fault a format for doing the one thing it was built to do. A piece in that world is purchased with a currency, and the currency is significance, and everybody pays. The father of that family paid better than anyone. The yard was his, and the zones were his, entered zone by zone. The cabinets were his, painted at last. The chip was in his granite. By the yard's own measures, he was its most fluent citizen, the last man in that world you would search for contraband. And he had a saying. Every family's father has one, and the family hears it the way you hear a doorbell in a house you have lived in forever, which is to say not at all. His came out when the dog arrived. The rounds ended, every gathering at the father's chair, late, after every other leg in the yard had been leaned on, and the dog would put his weight against the father's knee, and the father would say the same 4 words over the top of it. Mild, automatic, to nobody. Better late than never. The yard thought it knew the joke. He was the man who had come home 3 days late with a puppy, and the family heard the saying as him ridding the 2 of them for it, and absorbed it the way it absorbed everything. And the second zone runs early. The son had heard those 4 words some 200 times. He had filed them, the way the whole family had filed them, under the things the father says. And a wall notices everything, and the wall had noticed nothing, because there is no better place to hide a thing than inside the sound of a family not listening. And the dog got old. And that happens between paragraphs in a report and between gatherings in a life. The muzzle went gray. The rounds got longer in time and shorter in distance, and he arrived at every leg later than the year before, so that the saying fit him a little better each gathering, which nobody remarked on either. In the last few years he did one slow lap for form's sake, took the father's knee last and latest, collected his 4 words, and then came to the wall and stayed. A warm weight on the son's feet from the 2nd hour on, both of them posted, neither of them saying anything, the only 2 members of the family keeping the law honestly. The afternoon of this report was the afternoon the yard thinned early. The chairs folded. Cars went out of the driveway youngest first, and the noise went down by families until the surface broke up into words again, and then into nothing, and the yard came off its heat, and it was the hour of paper plates pinned under a brick. At the sun stayed, because the dog was on his feet, and it seemed wrong to move him, and the father crossed the yard folding chairs, and for once there was silence, then a slot in it the size of a barn door, and the son, empty of his plan, with nothing left in his head to protect, asked a question. Not the yard's question. An old one. At the 3 days. What happened out there? The father put the chair down. And the family had asked that before. Everyone had, at one gathering or another, into a slot. And everyone had the answer, because the answer was the file. The spring the truck quit on him out past the state line. The year he came back 3 days late with a puppy. It towed the truck, freed the dog. But in the saying, if the dog was near enough, and the 2nd zone. That was the whole of it, and it had passed the gate at every gathering for 15 years. And it is true. The weight everything in the yard is true. What follows is the rest of it, which nobody had ever got, because nobody had ever asked it in a silence. The report will tell it at the pace it can afford, which is not the pace he took. 15 years ago, he drove out alone after a part for the truck, 2 states away. The kind of errand a man runs when the errand is not the point. The last stop before the empty was a 2-pump station with an old man behind the register and Nate stitched over his shirt pocket. And the old man talked the way gas station men talk. About nothing. The roads, the heat coming. No rain since April. And with the change, free, apropos of nothing at all, he said. If she quits on you out there, remember the washer bottle. Mine's straight water. I keep it straight water. But a father thanked him and filed it where you file gas station talk, and took the cut off the mats had stopped mentioning. And 30 miles in, the truck quit. And the report will spare you what the father did not spare the son, and enter only its shape. A day in the shade of the truck, under an umbrella he could not remember owning. A night of walking. A 2nd day on the water from the washer bottle, which was, as promised, water, more or less, and which he drank to the last of it out of a sentence a stranger had handed him for free. And on the third day, a stone, flat, black, broad as a table, out where nothing else stood, and a lever standing off it of a lean, iron, the height of a man's hip, worn bright where a hand would go, which means hands had gone there. Words cut into the face of the stone, no maker, no signature, which he gave the son word for word, and which the report hands on the same way. The liver is connected to everything. That was all it said. Not what would happen, and not which way. The report is going to stop here, at the stone, for longer than the art would ever allow, because the father did, and because this is the part the son had never been given and the family has still never heard. A man 3 days out reads a sentence like that the way he drank, all at once, and then again slower, connected to everything. The plainest reading is the one a child would give it, and he gave it first. That the lever brings everything down, the whole arrangement, every yard and every zone and every waffle machine in every hotel, and the silence after. He did not find that he minded. That is the part he said, looking at the chairs and not at the sun. He had spent his life in a place where nothing was permitted to matter, and been good at it, the best, and here was the one object in the world that was the opposite of the yard, a thing that didn't pretend to be about nothing, that had the gall to be about everything and say so on its face, and it was asking for him. The second reading came after, and was worse, because it was hope, that connected to everything might mean fixed and not ended. That a man might pull it, and somewhere the rain would come, or the truck would turn over, or the part he had driven 2 states where would be sitting in the bed of it when he got back. The sentence allowed that too. It allowed anything. That was its whole genius. And he understood, standing there, that the words had been cut that way on purpose, by somebody who knew exactly what a man brings to a sentence with no verb in it but is. And under the 2 readings, the third, the one he said last and quietest, that it was connected to nothing at all, that it was a lever in a desert and some fool had carved a line on a rock, and that he would pull it and nothing would happen, and he would die out there anyway, having done, as his last act, one more thing of no significance. Of the 3, it was the only one he could not bear. He stood there with his hand on it. And a report will not pretend to know for how long. He doesn't either. He was 3 days from his truck and most of the way out of his own body, dying, as far as he could tell, imperfect in significance. And here was the one act on offer in that entire desert that meant anything, or might, and it asked no strength he did not still have. A lever like that does exactly one thing for certain, which is something, at last, and no man who pulled it would ever again be asked what he was up to these days. He had weight on it. He told the son, not all of him, enough that it had moved. And the report enters that because he did. And then, from the shade on the far side of the stone, a sound. Somebody had dumped a litter out there, the way people do, far enough out that the doing of it never has to be seen. And there was one left, a yellow, too weak to stand, and it stood anyway, and crossed the open ground to him, and put its whole weight, which was nothing, against his boot, and leaned. There were 2 significant things in that desert, and a man with enough left in him for exactly one. And the geometry of it was the part the father said slowest. A later asks for one hand. A puppy that cannot walk asks for both. He took his hand off everything, and picked the dog up, and turned around. And the lights he finally walked into, on the second night after the stone, were the lights of the 2 pump station, where the old man looked at what the father was carrying and went for a bowl before he went for the phone. That is where he stopped. He is the only man in that world who was ever offered everything. And what he chose instead was, at that moment, asleep on his son's feet. He has never said what he knows, which is that he stood with his hand on it. He didn't say it now either. But the story ended at the bowl. It was full dark by then. It was the longest anyone in that family had ever spoken without being interrupted. And by every measure the yard keeps, it was about nothing. A truck, a walk, a dog. The report enters its one finding here, and it has checked, and it holds in every yard in every world. The boring are not empty. They are unasked. And then the old dog woke and gathered himself up off the son's feet the way old dogs do, in installments, and crossed the dark yard to the father at his chairs, late as he had ever been, and put his weight against the father's knee. And the son, with the straight answer already in his hands, stitched over a shirt pocket 2 states away, asked the one question nobody in that family had ever asked. Why Nick? Then? And the father, who had the straight answer too, put his hand on the dot and gave him the other one, the one he had been giving for 15 years, mild, automatic, over every late arrival at every gathering, in the one place nobody would ever ask what it meant. And for the first time, somebody heard it. Better Nick than Lever.